I'm learning to speak the language of a bird. Apparently I'm saying poop in your food. Good morning and welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I will be your host. And this is little Mr. Noname. He is my co-host today. A very unexpected co-host at that. I was going out to feed the critters a couple weeks ago, and I saw it had snowed. It was really cold out there, and I saw something black fluttering around outside, and I went over to it, and it was this little guy. He was hurt. His wing had gotten munched. It was bloody, but it was so cold out that he wasn't bleeding. The blood had kind of frozen on him, and I think that's the only thing that saved his life. He was attacked somehow, and there was kind of a little bit of meat coming out of his wing. His wing was kind of spread out. So I immediately grabbed a bucket. I put him in a bucket. I brought him in here, and I just happened to have this cage. I'm serious. It's like this magic closet of everything behind you. I have everything in the known world in that closet back there. I had this little bird cage because when I lived in Windham, Minnesota, I found a baby robin that had fallen out of its nest, and I wasn't sure the neighbor's dog was going to eat it or not. So I put it into a little cage. I kept it there for a couple days, and then I let it go, and the mother came and she fed it, and it was okay. So I bought this cage for about $16, and I've had it ever since. And I never thought I'd ever get a chance to use it again. Well, I have a chance to use it again. So I have little Mr. Noname over here, and I want to give you a quick shot of him because he's going to be in here. I have no idea, by the way, how long he's going to be here. If his wing is going to heal up, if it does heal up, I'm setting him free. He belongs out there, more power to him. But if his wing doesn't heal up, he's pretty much going to have to be here because he can't take care of himself outside, which really kind of sucks. Nature is kind of not kind. This thing would have probably died outside, but I had to go bring it inside. Good thing I don't live with my mom anymore. She'd kill me for bringing in all these weird stray animals. Take a look at this. This is what it is, the little voodoo bird. I think they're called snowbirds. That's their nickname, snowbirds. There's a ton of them outside, and I sure am hoping that he heals up so that he can go out. You're a little pig. He is. He really is a bit of a pig. I went to the feed store and I got him this 5-pound bag of wild bird seed. It has all kinds of weird stuff. You know, you've seen wild bird seed. Well, it had sunflower seeds in it, and from what everybody was telling me, they like sunflower seeds, those little black oil sunflower seeds. I just happen to have a 50-pound bag that I feed to my chickens, so I gave him an extra bowl of sunflower seeds, and he just sits inside that little bowl, and he pecks at him and does whatever he does with his beak, and out goes the shell. So there are shells all over the place. Knock yourself out. As long as he's not fluttering around here. I'm going to keep him in there probably for another couple weeks. Then I'm going to close this door, open up the cage, and if he flies around here, that means he can fly, and then I'll capture him and then just walk him right out the door and he's free to go. Anyway, back to what I really wanted to talk to you about is all of the updates on the plants. I know you're just dying to get at this, and I've been dying to get at them too, but I have two new additions to the farm. I have a program on the Praxis 55712 channel. If you want to see it, click on the link below. They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful, and I've been very busy with them because they take a lot of care. But I have things to do, I have responsibilities, and one of them is keeping my garden going because it's something that I really love to do. This plant right here is one that I don't know if I've shown very much of. It's called a Tam Jalapeno. Have you ever heard of that? A Tam Jalapeno, that's the nickname, Tam Jalapeno. All that means is it's a jalapeno plant, and jalapenos have wonderful flavor. But this is different. This is a jalapeno that has no heat, and that's what they say. I'm going to find out because I'm going to grow this. I'm going to grow the jalapenos, and I'm going to shove one in my mouth when they're ripe. So this is called a Tam Jalapeno. I wanted to grow this in my garden because I figured I've grown a bunch of different sweet peppers before, and I like trying different things to see if I can find a new favorite. You never know unless you try, right? So I'm growing a Tam Jalapeno. I figure I like the flavor of jalapenos. I'm not too fond of all the heat. So I'm going to grow me a Tam Jalapeno, and if they work, I'm going to have a whole freezer full of these things next year. I've been growing this the same way that I've been growing all my other peppers. Pruning it back, getting a little bit stockier, pruning it back. And I'm having the same issue with this that I'm having with all the other ones. They want to flower. And so I'm going around and I'm plucking these flower buds off. You've seen that if you're growing them indoors. I still have at least, what is this? This is mid-March. I still have, gosh, almost 2 months to go. And this is not going to be a pot-grown plant. It's going to be actually growing in the ground, I believe. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look at my diagram. I have such a diagram of my garden. It's so sad. I'm on my computer and I have this diagram and I only have so much space, and I know you can relate to this. I only have so much space for everything, and I'm thinking, okay, this goes here, this goes here. Oh no, this can't go here because this is going here. Okay, I gotta move this over here. This could go in a pot. This can go in the raised bed. Maybe if I scrunch this over, I can fit a little bit more lettuce. And that's what I'm going through. So I really don't remember whether this is going in a raised bed or it's going in a pot. But if it does go into a pot, it's going into one of those big 16-inch pots. So I got to keep this thing cut back, otherwise it's going to get kind of lanky. Indoors they get a little bit lanky. This one is doing just fine, and so I really don't have much to do with it. I want to bring you in because I want to show you the pruning. I'm going to continue with the pruning and show you what's going on. And I also have a little surprise guest right next to me I want to show you too. Come on over here. It's pretty sturdy. I'm holding it at a 45-degree angle and it's holding its own. That's a strong little plant. Now keep in mind, all of my pepper plants are the exact same age. So when you see some differences in them, it's not because they were grown before or after another one. They were all grown the exact same way, in the exact same soil, under the exact same light, planted the exact same time. I want you to keep this in mind because we got some startling differences here. This is the Tam Jalapeno. As you can see, there are little buds that are coming out here. Now, I mentioned in a previous episode, when you see these little buds, if you're growing it indoors and getting it ready for outdoors, if you see these buds, snip them off. You can use snippers. I just use my fingernails. That's what fingernails were created for. Snipping off pepper buds. You just snip them off whenever you see them. You don't have to get them when they're itty bitty. Let them get a little bit bigger right before they open up. That way they're easier to get and you don't accidentally snip off some leaves. It's just that simple. Now, also, as I mentioned before, as it grows, you want to remove these leaves that are going to be at the bottom. There's one there. There's one there. A nice sharp pair of scissors is what you're going to need. And the reason I remove these, also as I mentioned before, but I keep repeating myself because there's always new viewers and they don't know what I said before. So if I sound a little redundant, have a little patience, and it's only for the new people. I'm going to snip this one off, sniff it, snip that one off. And for right now, that's all I'm going to do. I don't snip them all off to begin with. I just, as it grows taller, I snip more off. This is a good fork right here. It's nice and low. Then we have the higher up forks. See? It's forked off into like a star formation here. And it's going to continue to do that as it gets bigger. So it's going to grow really beautifully. Now, some peppers have different growing patterns than others. So when you're pruning yours, you don't go exactly by, like, say, this one, because another pepper may have a slightly different growing pattern. Even though they're all peppers, they have different growing patterns, just like tomatoes. Now, I'm going to set this one aside for now, and I want to show you an example. Don't laugh. Don't you laugh now. This is okay, you can laugh. Look at this little midget. Does this not look like bonsai? It's like the fine art of Japanese bonsai. Yes, this is my Poblano pepper. I planted it the exact same time as that other monster over here, and this is what I got. Now, look at this though. Look at the stem on this. This is laying 90 degrees over. See? Whoop, a little bit of dirt's coming out. But look at how sturdy that is. That is rock solid, and that's a good thing. Now, I don't know why this plant is so small. It has nothing to do, I don't believe, with the soil or the lighting or anything like that. Possibly this is how they grow. I have to admit, I don't know if I have any experience at all with poblano peppers. I've grown jalokias, scorpions, yellow monsters, all different types of peppers, but I don't know if I've ever actually grown one of these before. So I don't know if this is normal or not. This one is supposed to be going outside. Now, not knowing if this was normal or not, and by the way, this one's putting out the flowers the same as the other one. So, you know, they're the same age, they're doing the exact same thing. And I'm pinching them off. Now, since I don't know if this is normal, what I went and did was I have another pot up on a shelf back behind you, and I planted more poblano seeds. I still have more than enough time for them to grow up and be kind of mature before I set them outside in the spring. I want to compare those with this. If they grow in a different pattern and grow taller, I know that this is a genetic problem, and I wouldn't want this growing outside. If they grow the same way, well, then I have extra poblano peppers, and I know that this is going to be normal. So if you grow poblanos and you've grown them inside, let me know, would you? This one was started in December, mid-December of 2016, or the end of December. So it's about maybe 2.5 months old right now. Kind of a tiny little thing. I would think, hey, if this isn't going to get very big, wouldn't this be wonderful for patio planting? Yep. And one more thing. Let me move this out of the way. I want to show you something. Folks were asking about when I pruned the tomato plant, the boxcar willow. And if you look an episode or two ago, I think it was 2 episodes ago, I pruned the top off, and I showed how you would clip off all of the leaves on the side, shove it in a cup of dirt, give it water, and let it root. A lot of people asked about an update on that. Ray, are you still growing that? Normally I throw my clippings away because I just don't need the extra plants. Otherwise, I would just go ahead and plant them. Well, I didn't need the extra plant, but I wanted to continue growing this as an experiment. Now, here's my experiment. Let me take this out really quick, and I want to show you. It isn't going to hurt it at all, but I wanted to show you what happens when you root a tomato. I didn't use any rooting hormone. I just shoved it into soil, and I watered it. But, now, this is probably going to be a little bit surprising. It would be surprising if I can get it out. There's the roots. It's quite a bit of roots, considering that was just a cutting. All right, now I want to get that back in there so it doesn't stay out in the air for very long. Now that didn't hurt it at all. I'll add a little bit more soil after the filming. Now what I want to do for an experiment with this thing is I've been pruning this back. Look at the deep color on this. That's boxcar willow. And this is just one little stem. It was one straight up little stem when I popped it in there, I think. And look at this. I've been pruning this back and growing it as a little dwarf tomato plant. What I would like to find out, and this is my curiosity only, I want to find out if I can grow a tomato plant in a little cup, not a little pot, a little cup, and see if it will grow and produce any tomatoes at all. I mean, I don't expect a bumper crop. You know, I'm not going to be hauling gallons of tomatoes off of this thing, but I want to find out what the limits are of what I can do with this boxcar willow. I know I can grow it huge. I did that last year, and I'm hoping to do it again this year. Now I want to go on the other end of the spectrum. I have the mother plant, and that one's doing really well. You're going to see, actually, you can see it right now. There's the mother plant right there. And I want to find out if this can grow and produce tomatoes in this little bit of soil. Normally you would think, no, this amount of soil is not going to be enough to support a tomato plant. Well, the only food it's getting is the compost tea that I make inside here. It's getting no artificial fertilizers, nothing in the potting soil. This is 100% the tea that I use, and these plants, all of them, by the way, get nothing else. And I could boost their growth and make them look really crazy if I used artificial fertilizers. I just choose not to do that because that's just my method of gardening. So I made a little bit of a mess, but for some reason this tablecloth comes clean very, very easily. Okay, anyway, I wanted to show you that, and I also wanted to show you the mother plant. Yeah, oh, well, the camera isn't really that far back. This is the original plant. This was grown from seed, and it was pruned a few times. And you can see the one stem coming out and all the different suckers. These are the suckers everybody tells you to cut off and that I tell you not to. It's pruned right down here, actually right down here, and then it forked 1, 2, 3 times, and it's growing straight up. Now, if I were going to plant this outside right now, I would bury it all the way up to where I pruned it the first time, right here. And I would spread these out gently and add more soil and bury it. Add more soil up here and spread these out. And then we would have 3 plants growing out of the space of 1. I've done this before and it works wonders. And every bit of stem that's buried is going to be producing roots, and that'll make it even stronger. This is a very strong plant. For as much as I got going on here, look at this. There's no staking going on. I can turn this thing sideways. It doesn't fall, it doesn't snap. The color's good. Now the leaves kind of curl down to the side. I have it between 2 very strong fluorescents, one on this side, one on this side. If I put it right above, the leaves go like this, okay? You can see that on the sides. The leaves go more out than in here. And that's natural. They always go towards where the light is. But this is doing okay, but I wanted to show you one thing for caring for your plants until you get them outside, because I want you to have the benefit of everything I could possibly think of. You see how there's like little stems pointing towards the inside right here? I don't like inner growth, because what that does is it holds in humidity, and it also blocks light from things that are below it. And when they're all crowded like that, it's just an invitation for a fungus to start growing. You'll see little white dots on your leaves every now and then if you have a fungal issue. And so snip those off. If you see anything like that, snip it off. The inner leaves, snip those off, toss them away. This really doesn't need a whole lot more care than I just gave it right now. Snip this one off, snip this one off. Sharp scissors, definitely worth their weight in gold. And that's it. That's all we have to do now. Keep an eye out for flowers. If you have flowers on your tomatoes, pinch them off. As pretty as they are and as tempting as it is to get tomatoes right now, that's not what you want. We're growing this for strength to go outside. Okay, that takes care of Boxcar William. Oh, by the way, take a look at the pot. I get sent things all the time. It's just this crazy thing that happens continuously. And look, a viewer made these for me. She made them. They're stickers. And this is one of the stickers. I put it on the pot. It's me. And I have them of Rascal and the goats and the chickens. That was hilarious. Oh, one last thing while I have you down here. What I'm sitting on, you notice I'm not sitting on a pot. This came in from China. And it's because I have a viewer, a friend, that tunes in, and she's Chinese, and she wanted to make absolutely certain that her name is kept out of here. She does not want her name mentioned. She wants to be anonymous, and I respect that. So I wanted to say, you know who you are. Thank you so much. Your gift arrived from China 2 days ago. It is cut down here. It is a gloss finish. It is, I don't know what kind of wood it's made of, but I can tell you this thing weighs a ton for a little tiny stool like this. If you bought this generally at stores here in the United States, and I'm not putting down the United States, but you know, factory made stuff generally tends to be a little bit cheap, and people want to go for things that are inexpensive. But look at this. It's finished even underneath this. See, they didn't skimp. This is not pressed wood. This is real wood, and it looks like it was handcrafted. I'm not sure. See, I know nothing about it. It just arrived in a package from China. And she said, I noticed that you were sitting on pots in your voodoo room, and I would like to give you something more comfortable and sturdy to sit on. So, thank you. Thank you so much. The generosity and creativity of these folks is just amazing. Now, let's move on. I'm going to push this away, and I'm going to bring over the larger guests because I want you to see something over here, okay? Hold on just a second. I'll be right back. All right, I had to back you up just a little bit because this thing's getting bigger and bigger. This one you've seen on the previous episodes. Actually, on the last episode, you saw Rapunzel. Remember Rapunzel? I sent out seeds this year for everybody to grow all over the world. And so a lot of folks are growing Rapunzel. And from what I'm hearing, it's almost a 100% germination rate on her seeds. So the seeds that I sent out are probably the best seeds I could possibly have found for you. And those I harvested from my own tomatoes. I'm growing the exact same plant you are. This is Rapunzel. Last episode, about 2 weeks ago, she was barely above this 5-gallon bucket. She was about up to here. And in 2 weeks, this is how tall she's gotten. I had to show you this. I had to show you this, not to show off, but, well, okay, maybe a little bit showing off. But, all right, aside from that, it's time to prune her because she's starting to get top heavy. And that's bound to happen when you have a plant that's growing indoors. It doesn't get the sun that it gets outdoors, so it's not quite as strong. And even if this was outdoors, you know, you really can't expect a tomato plant to be self-supporting for very long. So it is time to prune this one back. This one is going to live her entire life in this 5-gallon bucket. So I need to make sure I have her as sturdy as possible and low as possible, as long as possible while she's indoors. That way, when she goes outdoors, then she can start putting out more runners and I can train them to go out to the side and I can stake them up. In here, I just don't have the room. So come on in and I'm going to show you what's going on with it. I had to back you up so you can get the full scope. Now come in and let's start knocking off the top of Rapunzel and getting her in shape. Now, just like any tomato, she's wanting to put out flowers. And Rapunzel is known, and that's actually how Rapunzel got her name. Rapunzel tomato is known for putting out long, large clusters of little tiny flowers because Rapunzel means a long trail of tomatoes. They can have up to, I think, 100 tomatoes on a trellis. Of course, mine never did. Mine would have maybe 6 to 10 per trellis, but that's actually not so bad. The thing about it is she has maybe 5 to 10 on each trellis, but she'll have hundreds of these trellises all over the place, and they really weigh her down. So when you are growing Rapunzel, make sure you have it in an area where you're able to stake it up, because the weight of that is really going to pull down on her, and she's not one of those super sturdy plants like the Prax cherry. She's got a little bit more, you know, of a femininity to her. You know, she's graceful, she's beautiful, and she's not going to be able to hold that weight like that bulldog, the Prax cherry. Now, that being said, I would love to let her flower indoors, but I just can't. Down towards the bottom, let me whip the camera down here and I will show you the bottom part of it. Now it's about time to add a little bit more soil. I figure I can probably add a couple more inches of soil and still have room at the top for when I water heavily. I want to show you this though. See, we have leaf stems down here, and that's something I don't like having there. But when I first added the soil, there wasn't really a lot here. The growing tip was right here where my fingertip is. So I left those there. They're no longer needed, and I don't like having leaves close to the surface. It keeps humidity down there, and it invites fungus. Now, this one really doesn't have any, but I think I might have, no, well, you can kind of see a couple little lighter dots on this. That would generally spell fungus, and they're normally more pronounced than that. So if you see those, cut those leaves off and get them out of your house. That's a fungus. It's not a game ender. It's just one of those things. Nature has fungus in it, okay? It's a dirty place. So let's cut off these bottom leaves. And then also I wanted to show you while I have the camera in my hand. Here's the fork right here. And that's beautiful. That's exactly what I want. That way half the plant can go one way, half can go the other way. And that's exactly what it is. I was very fortunate to get her to do this. Now I'm going to have to cut these down too because they're just way too long, way too top heavy. Let me set the camera down on the tripod and let's get started. Okay, I'm a fool. I'm a total fool. I set everything up. I was talking, I was snipping, and I looked at, I was gonna move the camera just now and I noticed it wasn't recording. Oh, and you just can't go back in time. So I'm gonna just give you a real quick explanation of what I did, okay? It's really not a bad thing. All right, you saw what it looked like. I did show you that. What I did was I came and I took off half of this down to here and I left a leaf node here. What's gonna happen is where that leaf node meets the main stem, a sucker will grow out of there, all right? So that's going to happen. And then over here, I did the same thing. I like to keep them as even as possible. I'm kind of OCD about that. And we also had a sucker coming out of this part right here already. Now, it's nice to have our plants being as even as possible. We would all like that, but you know what? Nature doesn't work that way. Nature doesn't care if everything is symmetrical. So I have more leaves over here than over here. Nothing I can do about it. I have a sucker that's already growing here and one that isn't growing here yet. And that's just something I'm going to have to deal with. This will always be the special side that I have to focus on. This one seems to be the stronger side. You can even tell it by the strength of the stem. That's okay. You know, like I say, I'm not growing anything to be absolutely perfect and beautiful. I'm growing these for tomatoes. And this is exactly what I want. I want it semi-even, and I also have a little node down here where a sucker will come out. I also, when I was clipping, and not recording by the way, I mentioned when you cut off your leaves, and I took off the leaves down here because I don't want them all clustered up. When you take off the leaves, leave a little bit of a node right here, okay? You don't want to clip right up against the main stem because everywhere a leaf comes up to the main stem, you'll see that there's potential for a little sucker to grow out. And you never know when you want to promote some part of it to grow. So if you leave that node, you'll always have that sucker that can come out. You may not need it, so you can snip it off later on, but for right now, we have the potential, and that's what we want. Now I need to add a little bit more soil to this because I can, and also it's going to cover up part of that stem. That's going to promote even more roots, because remember when I buried this thing, it sped up the growth. I mean, come on, 2 weeks, look at what we got. So adding even more soil is going to promote more roots, and that's going to be a good thing. Right about to there. I don't think I would want my soil any higher than that, because when this is outside, I'm going to have to give it a good dousing every now and then, and I want to have some room up here for the water to go before it soaks down. Otherwise, if your soil's way up at the top, you have to barely pour it and just stand there, and it's just grueling because otherwise it's going to pour off the top. So always leave about maybe an inch or so on the top. You're going to be just fine. Okay, sorry I screwed that one up, but you know what? Like I tell everybody, I'm not perfect. If I was, I'd get paid a lot more. All right, let's go on to the next one. Now this is definitely not a tomato or a pepper. This little beauty, look at my stool. Yep, it doubles as a little micro table. I love this thing. Anyway, this is a rose plant, and it's not just any rose plant. This is the one that I've shown a few times here in the Voodoo Garden, and it's because I really love it. This is a mini rose, the ones that you see around Valentine's Day, you know, to get your little sweetheart one of those little itty bitty pots with a little micro rose, and you're like, oh wow, mini roses. Those aren't actually mini roses. Those are just baby rose plants, okay? They will grow up to be big rose plants, and here's proof. This one we got 1 year and 1 month ago. So I've been growing this in the Voodoo Garden for 1 year and 1 month, and I've been pruning it back. It grows up. I've been pruning it back. It grows up. It's put out more roses than I can possibly count. And the reason I'm keeping it in the Voodoo Garden is because I wanted to strengthen it up and then get it ready, because it's going out into the garden this year. You know, the Lower Uncton garden, the one that I just built? There's a special spot over there, and I want to plant this in there and have roses vining out along the fence on one side of it. So I thought, you know what? I can grow vegetables all day long, but it sure would be nice to have some flowers in the garden to kind of cheer it up, and also for a different look and for a little variety, and to bring in some pollinators. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this rose that way. And so that's why I've been growing it the way that I've been growing it. I've been pruning it back, getting it strong, and take a look at what it looks like, because the techniques I use on this are the exact same techniques I'm using on everything else. So if you ever want to do this, you can grow them indoors for a while, and you can also take them outside. Now these aren't unhealthy leaves on the bottom. These are just leaves that I've snipped off from the top, and I usually, whenever I'm pruning plants, I generally like to let the leaves hit the bottom. As soon as they dry, I crumble them up and they go back into the soil. It goes to feeding the soil, one thing that I promote a lot. Now, when I got this, it had multiple stems coming out of the ground. You can actually see some of the broken ones down here, actually the snipped ones. When you get these rose plants, here's another one right here. When you get these rose plants, they're generally a bunch of multiple stems coming out, and it makes it look bushier. It makes it look good in that little pot, but in my opinion, it's really not going to be that functional, because they're all clustered down here, and you get the humidity, and eventually your leaves will start dying, and you may get a fungus, because roses are susceptible to that. What I did was I cut all those extras out, and I promoted one stem only. Let me hold the camera a little bit more stable for you. Sorry about that. So I promoted one stem, and I let some strong stems grow off the side, and I kept pruning it. And this is, let me see if I can get in there. It's about time to prune it again. You can see some nice strong stems And you can also see up here, ouch, ooh, wow, yeah, they do have thorns. See, I pruned it up there as well. Now this one is growing really nice, really strong. For right now, what I'm doing is I'm promoting about half a dozen stems, and I'm not, everything that comes out of them on the sides, I'm cutting off. You know, when it gets a new one, I cut it off and I promote it growing out. And that way, when I plant it in the garden, we'll have main stems that I can tie up to the fence and train to go along the fence. Then they can start vining out all that they want. But this is what I got growing in the Voodoo garden. And so if you want to grow a rose indoors, by all means go for it. Some folks may tell you you can't, but you're seeing right here that you can. And I have no windows here. I just use regular light bulbs. So if you have a sunny window, I say go for it. In the middle of winter, when it's cold and there's just a little bit of light coming in your window, it sure is nice having a rose blooming indoors. Okay, I don't want to take this thing off the shelf. This is a bonus shot. This is a plant called Mother of Millions. And I want to feature this for you because it was also a gift from a viewer. In the middle of winter, I think it was last year, somebody sent me an envelope with a wet paper towel in it in a baggie, and I didn't think it would survive. But what they did was they sent me this itty bitty micro looking thing about the size of a piece of rice, and it was looked like a dead piece of plant. And I planted it in the soil, and this is what grew from it. This is a succulent type plant. What happens is, on the tips of its leaves, it puts out little babies, kind of like when strawberries put out babies. And these babies will have roots, actually more like spider plants do. See the roots on this? Yeah, and what will happen is, these will fall off, or you can pluck them off. Let me move my hand down here. And then you just take these, put them in soil, each one of them in its own pot, and you will have a whole new plant. And that's what we have here. And she will continue to do that. As she grows, more and more and more will come out. So once you have one, you're always going to have one. And did you know, this is something that I didn't know. This is something new. Let me turn this thing around because I want to show you something. Another thing that I didn't know about this is once a leaf, you can actually take one of the leaves itself. You don't have to take just the baby. You can take one of the leaves and shove it in the soil and it will grow roots. Look at this one. This is a leaf that fell off when I was pruning it, and look, roots, and you can see a whole new plant growing out of it. So these things are very, very adept at propagating themselves. I showed a picture of this to a friend, and some other folks said, hey, those are invasive, and I thought, okay. Invade away. It's a beauty. It's something different, a little bit exotic, and it fits beautifully in the Voodoo garden. I want to say thank you to the person who sent this. Thank you. It's doing very well in the Voodoo garden. Well, thank you everybody for joining me in the Voodoo garden. I really do appreciate it. If you have any questions at all concerning your indoor garden or how to totally destroy your garden with your snippings and dirt and everything, please feel free to post a comment in the comment section below. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Until next time, this is Ray and VoodooBird in the Voodoo garden saying thank you for joining us. We're out of here. We're out of here? Well, you're not out of here. You're stuck there. I can leave. That's kind of sad. You know what? If he does have to stay here and his wing doesn't work, I'm getting him a bigger cage. I'm going to go on eBay and look around and see if I can afford me a bigger cage and possibly set it over here as a permanent fixture. A bird should have a little bit more room to fly than that. Okay, I got to get going. Enough of my nonsense, my preaching and stuff. Oh, it smells like tomato.